I would be back this evening, so I did. Partially because I'm very full from eating, and I was too wiped out to do a second workout. Um, Ironically, I did my usual 10K, but I did it in the evening instead of early in the morning as I should have. So I skipped the afternoon because the UV index was so high that I knew, I would risk a heat injury or just having a mediocre run. Usually, whenever I run when it's very hot, I just have a mediocre run. Cool, whatever. But um, fortunately, I did it after the earlier live stream that I did, and the UV index was low, which is funny because it was just a 2% difference in the temperature from 92 to 90%, but it went from UV index being very high to low. So it made all the difference. Like when I was running, it literally didn't feel like 90 degrees outside. It felt like 80. Plus it was a breeze. So, I still came in within an hour in my 10K run, which I know is not fast for people who are runners or know of running. But the way I do my 10K runs, I do it as a slow run, and I mix it with sprints. So it's overall a slow run, but I'll have bursts of sprints within it. So I think it's a well-adjusted run that I can do daily, and I'm usually going up and down hills, which also makes it a longer a longer slug. Um, no, I'm not. You can go. Any case, um, so the earlier live stream was uh, on political centrism, and I was asking, well, I wasn't asking, I was kind of making a claim that I think that classical liberalism was at the political center nowadays because things have moved so far left in society that classical liberals who used to be firmly on the left are now seen on the right. But I think they can be more they can be more accurately seen as the centrists today, whereas when things were farther to the right, like 30 years ago, I would say moderate conservatives were at the center back in the early 90s. That has changed. So that was sort of where I was going earlier. Of course, the conversation strayed a bit, but um, I did say I'll come back with another live stream. This probably isn't going to last long either because it's already late and I have to be up early. And I shouldn't even be up now, to be honest. But I'm trying to get monetized, so I'm trying to get in those public watchable hours, which I'm very, very close to. And there's two stages of monetization. One will just allow me to do the super chats and promote my own merch, do super thanks, stuff like that. But the second level of monetization is when I'm actually gonna have is when you'll actually see like YouTube ads playing in between videos and stuff like that, which would help out a lot. So, like I said, I didn't start the the channel with the intent of being monetized originally. For me, this is more just like a vlog. But if they're gonna provide those financial incentives, why not take advantage of it? Since there are some people who make an entire living just from being YouTubers or other content creators. So that's cool. In any case, here's the topic for today. It is related to earlier, but it's a different topic. It's still political, but the question is something different than earlier, which was what do we consider political centrism? Tonight, the topic is Do you go against your family's politics? And when I say your family politics, it don't just have to be your actual nuclear family. For those who still have a nuclear family, it could also be like the politics of your community. So that's what I'm talking about. Family politics. I can tell you right away that I go against my family politics, as I support Trump. So yeah, custody says sorry, been busy. I'm glad to see you looking well still, brother. Thank you. Egalitarianism is the only neutral. But yes, I've had to ban politics talk at barbecues. LOL. Egalitarianism is not well. You may have a different definition of egalitarianism than how we understand it here, but egalitarianism is something that would be definitely on the left with as that would be a part of the progressives, um, because a lot of people who are in the center or on the right may not exactly agree with egalitarianism because egalitarianism presupposes that everyone is starting from an equal footing, for number one, and two, uh, even if it doesn't, it assumes that everyone should have equal outcomes, and most of us disagree with that. Where most of us may agree that we should have equal opportunities, and even that can be controversial. But let's say that everyone agrees that everyone should have equal opportunities. We still don't all agree that everyone should have equal outcomes. That would be a hard pill to force down most people's throat, that everyone should have equal outcomes. That would be socialism. So that would be seen more towards the far left for a lot of folks. Unless like I misunderstand how you're using the term. You might mean in a different way. Um, Shaking bottles says I go. What's up? I haven't seen you in a while. I go against everyone's politics for the most part. So I, being an uncle, refuse to be the uncle at the Thanksgiving party or any other holiday gathering where I'm voicing opinions that are vociferously different than everyone else's. But the ironic thing was originally I wasn't the person who had the strong views on politics that went against the family so much, but it's happened within the last few years as I've veered, as I've kind of dug my heels into my classical liberalism, which I find goes consistently with my philosophical and scientific views as well. So, but clearly being a Trump supporter in a typical black family is going to make you an outcast, especially when many of these black families are matriarchies with black women who are strongly democratic. So I just don't voice my political opinions pretty much on anything. The only way they will get me to voice a political opinion on something is if I'm actually upset, because when I'm upset, I have the bad habit of telling people what I actually think about them. Custody says, yeah, some see it as far left with socialism. I understand it. I mean, yeah, because like I said, I think a lot of people can equal. Excuse me. I think a lot of people might agree with equal opportunities, but equal outcome is not a very is not that's not a fair proposition to get people to agree when they're all starting from different paths. So yeah, I wouldn't agree with it either. Equal Even equal opportunity cannot always may not always be fair, because some let's for the reason that not everyone should not everyone deserves that opportunity. So, but I would be more in favor of saying, hey, let everyone have the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, but the outcomes will be based on other circumstances, like their abilities, their talents, um, their soft skills, the place in which they are trying to achieve it, and a bunch of other multivariable factors. So custody says equal opportunity, not outcome, but again, it's all interpretation. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's not all about interpretation. I think it's how you specify it. If you say yes, I'm an egalitarian. I'm butchering words. Sorry. Say yes, I believe in egalitarianism, but only insofar as we're talking about equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And then, a lot of people would probably agree with that, but there will still be some for, for both rational and irrational grounds will say they disagree. So, but how does that go as far as your family politics? Because that's the topic. Does that go against your family politics, or is that in line with your family politics? To bring it back to the original topic, Cameron, if you are asking a question outside of the topic, drop a cash app. I'm not gonna talk about stuff outside of the topic unless you drop in a cash app. I do this for free, so show me you value what I'm saying here. If not, go somewhere else where they're talking about that. So, and again, guys, this isn't about whom are you voting for. I don't mind if you address whom you're voting for, whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump, whether it's JFK, whether it's Cornel West, whether it's Dr. Jill, whatever her name is. Um, but this isn't the place for that. This topic is, do your politics go against your family politics? When I say family politics, that can mean either your actual, like, family, like your, such as, like, your parents and extended family, or your actual, like, living family, like your spouse and children and so forth. Or family politics can mean more broadly your community. So that's what I'm talking about when I say, do your views go against your family politics? Okay. Custody says my family are either extreme left or extreme right. I'm seen as a weirdo for being mid ground. So that gets to the point that I was talking about my earlier. So if you get a chance, Custody, check out my earlier live stream because I actually touched directly on that. I was saying what I was. The question was, where is the political center now in America? And I argued that I think that classical liberals are actually the center, or the centrists nowadays in America, because they've been pushed right because society has moved so far left. And I was saying a case in point for that is the fact that, like, I went to a public library last week, and they actually had a sign up at the information desk saying, don't use the following terms to address people here because it's offensive. And those words were ladies and gentlemen and ma'am and sir and guys and um, stuff like that. I'm like, so terms of respect are now considered offensive because you don't want to assume someone's gender? Like, that's crazy as F. So that's where I was getting to. I said, where exactly is the political center in America now? And I was arguing that I think classical liberals are at the center right now because they've been pushed to the right as society has moved to the left. Whereas, like I said, if we were talking about this 30 years ago, I think the center would have been a moderate conservative. And I also argued that most of America is somewhere in the middle because most of us just aren't extreme left or extreme right. Like, most of us just don't, in our daily lives, unless we are paid to be political, just don't care that much. Like, like some people wear their political identities on their sleeves, particularly, like, progressives, um, those who find themselves allied with the Rainbow Coalition or the fembots. So those sort of people, I don't have any, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything wrong with them being having those views, but a lot of them is for them. It's not just their views. It's like their it's part of their self concept. Like their political identity has become part of their self concept. So if you go against that, you're going against them. So that is extreme. And there's some people on the right that have their political identity built into their self concept as well. Both I think I find both of those to be extreme and won't allow that sort of person to think critically on political matters. So, Custody says my youngest brother won't speak to me because I said a certain candidate wasn't fit for election. Oh boy. I wonder whom. Uh, Custody says agreed. Classical liberals now centrist. Independent is becoming larger between the two options. Well, I'm an independent as well, so I've been an independent for like the last at least for the last 12 years, if not longer. I've been an independent. I think I've been an independent since 2008. Like I registered as an independent. So, but the thing was, I still pretty much voted as a Democrat, even though I was a political independent, j- just by virtue of the fact that I didn't want to be I didn't want to be part of the Democratic Party because I just didn't agree with the DNC, and I'm glad I chose that path because I'm staying an independent. Um, but up until about last year, used to still consider myself a progressive. So either way, I wasn't tethered to my family politics because I want to bring this back to family politics. So most of my family, they are Democrats and they are somewhat liberal. I would say they're moderate liberals, I guess, because like whatever the DNC feeds them, they kind of agree with. And the DNC are like corporate liberals. Like their liberalism is insincere. So I think classical liberalism is the most consistent form of liberalism. I think American liberalism is inconsistent. So I want to make the distinction between American liberalism and classical liberalism. Um, I think American liberalism is inconsistent, and but to be fair, so is American conservatism. But there's so many versions of American conservatism as there's American liberalism. Like uh, most of the political electorate are neoliberals, which is a very cynical political view of the world. I think neoliberals and classical liberals do not vibe. I will say that we have some virtues in common, but not many, just because they're inconsistent on those views, on those virtues. Um, but like I said, you have outside of the neoliberals and the classical liberals, you have a more moderate liberalism. Then you have progressives, and progressives, you have both moderate progressives, which is still far left, by the way, but you have moderate progressives, and you have the far left progressives, and then we can go into even more nuance, but you get the gist, right? Um, but yeah, as a progressive, like I said, up until last year, I still wasn't exactly this in agreement with my family politics. Because like I said, most of them were like moderate liberals. Pretty much whatever the DNC told black people to do, they were in agreement because of the Obama years. After Obama got into office, like it became like a political religion to them. Like as you can see from the wall, like every old black person has Obama on their wall and worship him, because for them this is a culmination of decades of racial struggle to see a black man become an American president. However, like I've argued with my friend, I mean, like my friend and I have argued many times on these videos, is that he's not even a real black person. Like his father was a Kenyan immigrant who didn't stay in America, and his mother was white. He lived in Hawaii and Indonesia, and didn't live in the mainland. So he came to the mainland for college and become a community activist in Chicago to pad his resume. Probably when he became a community activist in Chicago, that was the first time he was ever enmeshed in the actual black community. So I don't consider him black. I consider him a tether. Same thing with Kamala Harris. She's another tether. Um, but and I don't want to get into that rant. But I'll just say, like I said, every old black person, this is their guy. This is not my house. Just to let you know. But yeah, so I went against my family politics. Like I said, originally I was progressive. But now, um, since I'm a classical liberal, I've kind of rejected some things. Many of my views are still the same, but I just don't call myself a progressive anymore. And I was a Bernie progressive, if that makes sense. I was a Bernie Sanders progressive. So I was very much against the Hillary, the Obamas, and the Bidens, which most black people were going for. But now, as a Trump supporting classical liberal, I'm even more askew from my family politics, because most of the community and my family specifically are, diehard DNC people, Democrats, and going to support Biden despite him being half brain dead. But whatever. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you go against your family politics as well. Let me get back to the comments. I'm sorry. Custody says, yeah, tactical voting. Yeah, I get that. I was at my nephew's wedding last weekend. It got messy after the champagne over politics. It's not just dividing the country, it's dividing families. Oh, yeah. Politics has always had divided families. It's literally happened since the first American wars. You literally had families who were broken apart because some were considered themselves loyalists, what British loyalists, where others considered themselves the British colonists. So at the time, they still both considered themselves British. So the whole thing, the British is coming, would have been stupid, because they'd have been like, okay, who? But yeah, so the guy never, the John, whatever the guy name, he never ran around saying the British are coming, the British are coming. They wouldn't have said that, because they all considered themselves British at the time. So they just been like, who are you talking about? But but no, so there was the divide even in the American colonies in the first Revolutionary War, between family members who sided with the loyalists and some who were loyalists who sided with the British Crown, and those who sided with the American rebels. Um, a good a good look at that is the even though it's a fictional movie, but it has some really historical stuff going on in it. Is the old Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot? That gives you kind of a clue. Like families were divided amongst their views on the revolution. Also, the Civil War tore a lot of families apart. You literally had brothers and stuff like that fighting on each side of the war. One fighting for the Union, the other fighting for the Confederacy. Especially if they were in one of those, if they came from one of those states where it was like bordering between the North and the South, like places like Maryland. You would have seen that, or people who came from these territories that weren't yet states, and some of them were fighting for the right to extend slavery into those new territories, where others were against extending slavery into those new territories. Um, at one point, after the U.S. Mexican War, one of the reasons we didn't incorporate Mexico into the United States was that they didn't want to make all those brown people American citizens, and the government also didn't want the South to be able to extend slavery into that new region of Mexico, which would have made them a far greater political power than the North. So politics has always divided families. Custody says divide and conquer. Uh, Custody says if you don't vote Biden, you're not black. That hurt me. Are you well? Are you hurt that he said it, or are you hurt that people within like your family or community voted for him, though he said that BS? Custody says my mom has Obama on her wall too and hopes Michelle will take over Biden. I don't know why. So someone asked me that earlier in the early live stream. They said, "Do you think Michelle would run in place of Biden if he stepped down?" And I said I highly doubt it because she's been asked literally so many times, not recently, but in the past, like when Hillary ran and when and then when Biden ran in 2020, she has been repeatedly asked will she run for office, and she keeps saying no. She does not want to. She said like she would take a cabinet position possibly, but she has no desire to actually run for office. And I said I don't blame her. I was like, even though I don't even like Michelle Obama and I don't agree with most of her politics, I agree with her that I wouldn't want to run for office either because it's in a very exhausting, it's very exhausting, it's a very expensive, and it can be morally, and running for office can morally compromise you. So I I I don't blame her for not running. And like I said, I don't really know why people have their hopes up that she would run. First of all, it would it would be it wouldn't if she's going to run, she should run her own campaign from the beginning, not as a replacement, because it just wouldn't do well. Like choosing a new candidate, and also what I argued early in the early live stream, choosing a new candidate at the 11th hour is not going to go well for the Democrats. Like for better or worse, you're stuck with Biden because, like I said, if he chose to step down or if the DNC forced him out and they used a replacement candidate, then the they're gonna lose the people who were backing him, and they're gonna have no way of winning. They still don't. From looking at the numbers, they still can't win. But if they replace him, there's always gonna be this thought. Well, maybe if we just ran him, he could have won. So it would be a lose lose situation, as I've argued earlier. You said what happened to my ear? Nothing. Custody says I was a Bernie bro. Like I said, I still am, but he's up there in age too. I don't think he didn't offer to run. And I don't think anyone seriously asked him. Like I said, the DNC, both the Democratic National Committee and the RNC, the Republican National Committee, they're both neoliberal establishments. So neither one of them want a populist candidate. They're only backing Trump because they have no choice. But if there's a bunch of never Trumper Republicans in within their base, and even the ones who do support him only do so grudgingly because they know that he's the guy most likely to win. So they'll back him just out of being good soldiers and willing to back the strongest candidate that they have. But a lot of them don't really want him because a lot of like I said, both on the this is why I'm an independent, both on the left and the right. Well, not left and the right, but both on the Democratic side of the aisle and on the Republican side of the aisle. Most of them are neoliberals and they don't like populist candidates. That's why they don't like Bernie. That's why they don't like JFK. That's why they don't like Trump. That's why they don't like Cornel West. Um, they didn't like Ross Perot either. If you guys remember him. Custody says from martial arts, bro. No, I don't have cauliflower ears. So usually, like people who do combat sports, like submission grappling, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, they get these cauliflower ears. I don't have cauliflower ears. I just have small ears. I don't have cauliflower ears. It might just be the angle I'm at, but I just have naturally small ears. There's nothing wrong with them. And I don't have the cauliflower ears. You'll notice the cauliflower ears if I probably would have cauliflower ears if I sparred more, which I definitely should, but I don't spar enough. I really don't. Really should. Joseph Esquivel says, "What's up, bro? What's up, Joseph?" JJ says, "So you understand the history of the Democratic Party, right? I mean, as a black man, you shouldn't be very keen on their history." I shouldn't be keen on their history? I'm not sure what you mean. I've taken, you know, political science. I was a bit of a history nerd back in high school. The Democratic Party has changed from where it used to be. Um, but some on the conservative side would say that it's pretty much still the same. Like that it's pretty much like just they pretend now to care about minorities and stuff like that. Whereas it's still the same people running the show that was running the show back in the mid 1800s. But it has changed as has the Republican Party over the years. Maybe not as much as we think it did, but it's definitely changed. But I'm not sure what you mean that being a black man, I shouldn't be keen on that history. That doesn't make sense. And it would be insulting if I actually understood what you were saying, but I'm assuming either you phrased that poorly or you think little of my understanding of politics. Either way, I don't care. Custody says he does, JG, but it'll take a while. And then also the other thing, guys, I'm always going to be 5 minutes behind the comments because this being a vertical live stream, I scroll through the comments just like you guys are scrolling through the comments, except that I'm actually commenting on the comments as I see them, which is going to have me behind in wherever the latest comments are. So it's not from a lack of understanding. It's just I'm giving due attention to each comment I find worth replying to. I'm not sure why people don't get that. I mean, there's always going to be a time lag anyway, so. But I appreciate it, Custody. JJ says, no offense, but I'm here to speak to you, my guy. Well, again, the given topic is, for you guys, checking this out, do your views go against your family politics? That's what I'm interested in. I'm not trying to defend my beliefs, nor am I trying to give a voice to a certain species of political views. I'm just here to ask, do you, like me, have views that go against your family politics? Study says the topic is politics and family. Please stay on track. And I'm asking this for a given reason. Like I said, I have these issues in my own personal life, so I'm sure other people do. And usually I'm inspired by stuff I'll see on TV or conversations I'll have with people, right? So, like, I just know that, like, I know, like I said, as a Trump supporting classical liberal political independent black man in my family, I would stand out. However, I don't discuss my politics with my family. I don't go to family gatherings or Thanksgiving dinners and never express political opinions. I never have, and I never will. The most political I've ever been was at a Christmas dinner when I said Governor Westmore of Maryland sucks. That's about it. That's probably spicy enough, but I didn't go into any sort of spirited talk about it. I was just kind of disagreeing with my cousin who's also a state capitol police officer, and she doesn't like him either. And I was saying, yeah, I don't like him as well. That was it. That was the most politics I've ever spoke at a family gathering in the last 16 years or so. I don't know, if ever. Do, 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 do. This, why are trolls so stupid? Like, you know what would make trolling better? Well, two things. To be an effective troll, one requires an above average high IQ. Unfortunately, by the very nature of what trolling is, it usually attracts people of average to below average intelligence. And I'm being generous by saying some of them have average intelligence. But anyone who would troll people online, they're going to fall more within that below average. But I'll be generous and say some may be of at least average intelligence. So that's number one. If you're going to be an effective troller, you should have like above average IQ. The second thing is actually be funny. Like I've actually had a few trolls. There was one earlier in my previous live stream today who actually said something funny. So I just let it fly. Like if you say something trolling and it's actually funny, I'm gonna laugh at it because I don't get easily offended. People, first of all, people from Generation X don't get easily offended anyway, and two, people who have a background in philosophy don't get easily offended. So either way, you know. But yeah, if you're gonna be an effective troll, one, and I know this isn't really their choice, so oh well. You need to have above average IQ. Most of these trolls don't. Number two, actually be humorous. But the problem with being humorous probably goes back to point number one was, which is you have to have above average IQ. Being a good, being a funny person or even like a comedian takes, a modicum of intelligence that most trolls lack. Eric says, "Oh, well, I'll surprise you on this late." Yeah, I'm not gonna stay on long. I just wanted to double up on the streams today because I had to go earlier. I wanted to eat and work out as soon as the sun subsided. As soon as the sun stopped doing this Super Mario thing, like where it's like chasing you through the desert world of Super Mario. Um, that's when I decided to run, and then afterwards I had to do some yard work for my grandmother. So I need to remember to put that in my fitness log because I should count that 2 hours as actual like exercise. That's probably why I was too beat to do like uh, a second workout earlier. I wanted to do a second run and some shadow boxing, but after all that yard work, I was kind of beat. Um, Michael Kester says people have a 1 second attention span. Did I say that right? First, Michael is Kester, right? I hope I said that correctly. Yeah, part of the whole 1 second attention span, Michael, is the whole TikTok effect that is ruining a lot of people's attention spans, particularly younger people. And I was strongly advocating in the previous live stream about 2 days ago that people not let young folks be on digital devices for very long, if at all, especially under the age of 6, because their brain is still wiring, and allowing these kids to have tablets, to have phones, or just be like watching TV or playing video games at that age will mess up their attention span. and and this doesn't just come from me. Like I said, this comes from the American Medical Association, the American Pediatric Association, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association. I know a lot of APAs, and the Association for Psychological Science. Like all these people warn not to let young children be in front of devices because it is going to cause them a lot of um, attentional problems later on in life. And also these social media apps, which the algorithm to like the way the algorithms work is constantly pumping stuff to people to feed them this little feedback loop of excitation, and it destroys the attention span. Like most of them probably can't sit through a whole movie anymore without having their phone in their hand, much less read a book. So King Mississippi says Kanye West. I don't. As far as I know, he's not running this time around. So that's a that might the only way you're gonna vote for him is if you do him as a write-in on your ballot. But I don't. I haven't heard anything of him running unless you've heard something I haven't. Custody says F. Fluffy Campos is Keanu Reeves and Bill and Ted doing the WTF face at you. I've already banned that guy. And I've banned most of them. Like I said, I'll allow trolls if they were actually funny or intelligent, but most of them are neither. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the cognitive capacity to say say witty things nor to be funny. And because of the Dunning Kruger effect, they're too stupid to realize that they're dumb. So, Custody says I'm a OG Gen X. We don't get offended unless you waste our time. Read a book, be unique. uh, Michael says you. Thank you. One of the few who actually pronounced it correctly. Thank you. That's good. I pride myself being able to say people's names correctly. Like I was proud to know how to say a lot of like Asian and Vietnamese names and other names correctly. And because my job since 2015 has been being on the phones, so I've always like tried very hard to say people's names correctly, and sometimes it's an icebreaker. Like when someone has like a uncommon last name, or even sometimes an uncommon first name, it can be it can be an icebreaker because they'll say, "Hey, you're the first person that got my name right," and I'm genuinely happy that I've made someone's day by saying the name correctly because I'm sure they're so tired of people getting their name correctly. For instance, people get my wife's last name incorrectly in the Philippines. I mean, it's my last name, but it's often pronounced differently over there because it there's actually a Filipino version of my last name, even though it's a very American and English. It's a very English and a very American last name. There is a Tagalog version of that name there that's pronounced differently. So I obviously I'm not gonna say my last name, but it is funny because I always call her by the way they mispronounce it, just to get a laugh out of her. Michael Kessler says, I try to tell my friend that, and they wonder why the kids are so hyperactive and entitled and demanding. Yeah, like I said, people don't have to believe me, and I would tell them not to believe me. Be good skeptics. Go in and check out the evidence for themselves. But like, you can literally go to like the American the American Medical Association website or the American Psychological Association website or all the other ones I just mentioned, and they will tell people not to let their young children be in front of these digital screens at a young age. Because so under the age of 6, what's happening is the brain is still wiring for young children. It's called neural pruning, and the the type of the processes that go on to looking at digital information being bombarded to them through like tablets and computers and smartphones or video games or just watching TV is going to mess up that pre-wiring that will set a stage for them later on in life. That's why you shouldn't do it. And even after the age of 6, I would still limit their screen time. So it's just it's unfortunately a lot of us Gen Xers did sit in front of TVs for a very long time, or would play arcades or play video games for a long time. Um, but at least I know I don't remember playing any video having not having a video game system before I was 6. The earliest one was that we had was the Atari 2600. And that was actually my father's video game system. He just let me play it when I was ever at his house. I would play that. But my very first system I had of my own was ColecoVision. I I know I'm going way back with these, right? But yeah, my first system was ColecoVision, which I got for my for Christmas when I was 8 years eight, mm, eight yeah, 8 years old when I was in the third grade. But before then, I played Atari, which probably would have been around 6 or 7. So it probably wasn't good, but it's not like I played it that long because Atari wasn't that exciting. I might play, but even still, looking at it now, I wouldn't have let myself, if I was the parent, play with video games at that age, at the young age. And I know some people would be tempted to think their kids are going to miss out by not having these things because all the other kids are going to have it. But yes, all these other kids are going to be morons as well. So balance that out. um, like I won't be tempted to give my kid a cell phone at under the age of 13. And a lot of these helicopter parents nowadays will say, "Well, I need to have a way to get in touch with my kid if in case of an emergency." Really? Do you really need that? Because I don't know for the last I don't know how many eons most parents were able to be responsible parents without giving their kid a cell phone. Shoot, we couldn't even have pagers back in the 90s because they were saying, oh, the only person who has pagers are drug dealers. So we couldn't even have pagers, and now kids can have full-on smartphones with them in school, and we can even have pagers because they considered us drug dealers. Like the coolest thing to do back in the 90s as a teenager was to have a pager despite it being banned at school. And like it would go off and they'd be like, ooh. And like other kids would be like, ooh, you better turn it off. And but it'll usually be like but the best thing is like getting a I know I'm going down a tangent. Stick with me, I'll be back on the topic. But yeah, the coolest thing was like having a pager when you're a teenager and getting like a message from a girlfriend or something like that while you're in school. And people are like, oh, who you gonna? They was like, oh, they was like, turn it off so the teacher don't hear it. They be like, who you get a page from? You show them. Like, oh, that's a girl. Like, yeah. Like, okay, okay. But anyway, I'll be getting back onto the topic. So I'm I'm guessing most of you who've chimed in probably have had some differences in your views with your family on politics at some point in your life, right? It may not be a constant thing, but I'm sure it's happened to us all at some point. Especially as some of us come from very entrenched ethnic groups within America or even outside of America, if some of you are outside of America. But like let's say if you come from like a traditional Irish or Italian Catholic family, but yet you're like this liberal, but this liberal Bernie supporting guy, or vice versa. You come from this very hippie, non-religious family, yet you're like a devout believer, very conservative, and so on either side you stand out from your family, right? Custody says it's the formative years of brain synaptic growth. We don't control the way these shorts affect our youth. Yeah. Simply Korean says you're trying to make some money. Are you asking or are you telling me this that that's what I'm doing? Am I? If you're talking about this particular stream, this is not making me money. If you're talking about in the long term, yes, because as I have more watchable hours, I will be get my YouTube channel would be monetized. So, yes. But if you're asking me, am I trying as in like you're offering me some sort of um, deal, then I'm cool. Oh, but then you just turned out to be a troll, so buoy for you. Custody says bombard. Bombard. That's the perfect word, bro. So yeah, we were told it would make our eyes square and got cut off. So I remember as kids, what they used to tell us was we need to stop sitting in front of the TV. I never did that though. I wasn't one of those. I never understood why kids did that. Like I was not one of those kids that sat right in front of the TV. I like to be like kind of sitting back on the couch and just chilling with my toys. I wasn't like all in front of the screen like some kids did. I didn't see the point of that. I've only seen that on TV. I didn't know other kids that did that either. Like all of us, all my friends, we would just like sit on the couch and kind of lounge, and just veg out in front of the TV. We weren't like those kids that you see like in a prone position right in front of the TV. I don't know any of those kids. Custody says Commodore 64, and I was only allowed an hour after homework. Good. Michael says mine was Nintendo. I was about 6 or 7 too. So Nintendo was definitely my favorite video game console. Matter of fact, that was my last video game console was the classic Nintendo. Like after once I turned 14 in 91, like I I didn't have any desire in upgrading to the Super Nintendo because it was like I I was like disappointed. I just wanted classic Nintendo to just keep going and going, but all the newer games were just being made for Super Nintendo. So I just stopped caring. Like I still play video games, but I will only play like at my friend's house, their consoles. I never bought one after classic Nintendo. Although I was tempted to get the Nintendo Wii too. That was like probably the first console I was tempted to get after the classic Nintendo, but that was like almost like 20 years later. So, but yeah, classic Nintendo is my favorite. ColecoVision was actually I found ColecoVision was worse than Atari, but Kester said had the original Game Boy as well. That's cool, and Sega. Um, Michael said a resistor blew in mine, but it didn't break, so it kept working because I could mix battery types. Oh, okay, that's what's up. Custody said I sat in front because I was the remote control. So yeah, I wasn't one of those kids that they said go change the channel. I usually was either watching TV by myself in my room, or like early on a Saturday morning while my parents were still asleep. I was up early in the morning watching my cartoons with my breakfast cereal and with my toys that go along with the cartoons. Joseph says, love the stream, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you. Michael said, yeah, I was told not to be close to the TV. Chris 0516 Abel says, I like Super Nintendo. It was the best. Yeah, if that was your favorite console, I'm not gonna knock it. I was just saying classic Nintendo was my favorite. The 8-bit NES system. Like I mean, we had like the Nintendo Power magazine, and you had like the the Game Genie. It was just it was just so much love that came out of like so much merch, so like a whole industry grew around just the classic Nintendo Entertainment System. King Missile says, "What do you do for work?" I do um, lead generation, direct marketing, and also I'm a part-time self-defense coach. Michael says, "I didn't get a Super Nintendo until I was an adult." Norm says, "I like on television." Oh, you going way back. Custody says, "I miss Saturday cartoons and free toys and cereal." I still eat. I got some Lucky Charms in the kitchen right now. And as far as free toys, I don't have them because I'm downstairs in the den. But I keep pocket toys on me now, and it's only because I got this idea from uh, Dan at Secret Galaxy. Check out his channel if you haven't. It used to be called Toy Galaxy. Now it's called Secret Galaxy because now a lot of the content isn't just about toys, but about nostalgic stuff from the 80s and 90s. Um, but he said he keeps like a pocket toys even today. But he's a toy collector. As am I. I'm a toy collector, so I have a bunch. I still get my toys. No need to stop doing what I enjoy just because I'm older. If it brings joy to me and it's not hurting anyone, so a lot of Gen X folks have become males have become collectors now of like nostalgic things from the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Usually like toys, comic books, um, games, stuff like that. King says, I bet you ain't realize, but that's why slavery is still legal in Mississippi. Ignorance. I don't get what you're saying. You were just asking me what I did for a living, and then you segued into slavery being still legal in Mississippi. I'm guessing you're saying this is still legal on the books. If so, it would go against the federal. It would go against the federal or constitutional law. Slavery is only legal in the United States as part of being in prison. But no, if any state has it on the books, then um, it's illegal because it goes against constitutional law. So I don't know what to say to that. And you definitely sound like the uncle that would have the strong views at Thanksgiving, because that was the original topic: is who has views that go against their family politics. You sound like the uncle that would have the strong views going against the family politics. Uh, Crust 0516 Abel says, I have an Atari that my dad bought in 1980 and I still use it and it works perfect. Crazy. No, I mean, if you take care of it, why it should still work. I don't know which system you have, 2600 or one of the other versions. My mistake was thinking the 2600 was the first one and it wasn't. I think it was just probably the most popular of all of them. Bayless says, how you doing? I'm doing well, Bayless. King Mississippi says, yeah, the state of Mississippi, excuse me, the state of Mississippi still has slavery legalized. There was this guy that used to work in my office, by the way. He can never say, I think he can never say Mississippi or Massachusetts. I think he used to always butcher those words when he was talking on the phone. And I was like, yeah, he should stop saying those state words because it just makes him sound inarticulate. Um, Custody says, yeah, that was definitely Unk vibes, right? That was definitely Unk vibes. Like I said, I am literally an uncle to many nieces and nephews, and I refuse to go to any family gathering and just voice political opinions, whether I find them to be strong or weak views. I keep them to myself. The most you hear me say is, "Hey, this food is good. Can I have some more?" Um, and ask family how they doing. I don't discuss politics at all. The most, like I said, the most political I got was like a year ago when I said the governor Westmore sucks. That was the most politics I've ever expressed at a family gathering. Um, but yeah, and we literally had family gatherings where I had a family member who was running for mayor of Baltimore. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but when he came there, it was funny because people started asking him stuff. So it was funny seeing him switch into his candidate mode. Like you could see the transition in his temperament. Like when he started answering questions, like he started answering questions like he had been like answering it to like a press, which is smart because you never know which family member might be trying to test you. So, but most of us have his back, and I wish he had ran for office again, ran for office again against the current nut who's running Baltimore City. Michael says I think he was trying to make a bad joke. I guess. King Mississippi says most definitely. I think it's okay to date. I can't rock with you on that, King Mississippi. At this point, I don't know if you're trolling or you're serious. And yes, I'm aware that there are different uh, that those vary by state, but um, it's probably best to stick with the federal age or the age that the UN goes by, so you don't get in trouble. But yeah, I'm just gonna assume you're trolling at this point. And guys, listen to Custody. He said, "What's up, all? Hit like and get intelligence to the top." Bugatti boy. First of all, how are you? Um, I don't know what you mean by woke. The term woke has been used in so many ambiguous ways. So woke was for those who don't know, who in aren't black or haven't been enmeshed in the black community, let me explain this. The term woke actually came out of the black community. It was originally a term amongst like the so-called conscious folks to say, stay aware of political and of racial injustice and stuff like that. That's what stay woke meant. But then it was hijacked because people because people with the right had then used it to mock left-leaning people, and then with no sense of irony, those people on the left started to claiming the term as a badge of honor, or they would deny that it had any useful meaning whatsoever. So, in any case, in any of the nebulous usages of the word as it pertains to politics today, I am not woke. Jim Bob Joe says, "Damn, politics and religion is the majority of what my family bond over at family gatherings." Right. So, Jim, that's why I was asking the question, which is the topic of the discussion. Do you or do you know others who go against the family politics? Because, like I said, it can be very divisive. And I don't mean just divisive, like, oh, we don't want Uncle so and so at the family gathering because he's always talking that crazy shit. It gets worse. Like you've literally had family members go to opposite sides of the war because of their division and their political views. Like starting all the way back since the American Revolution, you had family members who were British loyalists and sided with the British crown, and you had others who sided with the rebel colonists and supported, the American Union Army, and they were in the same family. Then later on, about almost almost 100 years later, you have folks dividing over their views on the Civil War, and literally might have brother fighting brother, and one for the Confederacy, one for the Union. It can get that bad. It usually doesn't get that bad, but usually it's enough that it makes it uncomfortable to be around certain family. For one, you could be the family member who's the outcast, although you may actually be the reasonable one. Because the way it's usually looked at in media and on online is usually that the person with the outcasted person is usually the one who's wrong, and that may not necessarily be the case. You may be the political outcast in the family because you choose to be in an interracial relationship, or you you might choose a different religious path, or you might refuse to support a candidate just because he's part of the party that your family or your community has decided is their person. Like I said, that's happening right now in the black community. Because, like I said, when I'm talking about family politics, I don't mean just your nuclear family or extended family. I'm also talking about your community as well when I'm talking about family politics. So for a black person who's a Trump supporter, they're probably going to be at odds with the family politics. So that's what I'm talking about. Because so he says I have a double tap for him if he's trying to edge and troll. King Mississippi, I would keep some of those things to yourself if I were you. These these streams can be seen by anyone, whether just because people aren't appearing on screen in the chat room doesn't mean that they cannot see the stream. That's number one. Number two, like I said, I can't speak for the legality of what you're talking about. So I will not. I, I I'm completely agnostic on that. Three, I'm pretty sure that I have followers in my channel who are law enforcement. They might also have some thoughts on what you're saying as well. Again, be mindful of the things that you express on a public forum like a live stream. That's all I'll say. That's all I can have. That's all I can advocate for you. Again, I do realize there are differences amongst states. However, the way it's looked upon by people who come from states where those sort of things differ, it, you know, just saying, it may cause there to be an eye on you thereafter. Like I said, I'm just like I know I have veterans who follow me on my channel. I'm pretty sure I have a few law enforcement officers who follow me as well, and I do support my law enforcement folks. I support my law enforcement community. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. Don't get me to, don't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be mindful of what you express in a public forum like a live stream, because even if even if even if the legality is sound, the the impression or the appearance that it takes in what you said could come another way to some people. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be funny or try to clown you at all. Jim Bajo says all comments boost the algorithm. Yeah. I mean, did I don't I'm not going to pretend I know the YouTube algorithm but I understand it better than TikTok, which is why when I first became a content creator, I decided to go with YouTube than TikTok. My friend, who's just a few years younger than me, he decided to go the TikTok route, and he's actually been pretty successful on it. His name is Rich Wiley. If you guys want to follow him, he's gone pretty viral since last year. He's sort of a stocky, light skinned dude with a beard. So follow Rich Wiley if you guys look at TikTok. He's also on Facebook. Um, Custody says just because comments boost the algorithm doesn't mean it boosts it to the right people. True, and content creators, have to be mindful of that. But most of them realize that everyone they reach is not going to be their supporters. Some of them are going to be haters. There are probably just as many people who hate watch someone as someone who support watch people. So because he says these fools kids troll don't even know about Al Gore's rhythm. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's how you make a funny. Like if trolls could be that funny, then they would actually add to the conversation because humor is always good. Well placed and well timed humor is always welcome. Jim Bob Joe says, "Now we all based and red pilled." Not all, but oh, by the way, you guys, I just looked up the word based because I had to find out what that meant because I kept seeing it so much online. I'm like, what does base mean? Because when I first saw base, and don't laugh at me, or you can laugh, I don't care. When I first saw base showing up in like headlines for like YouTube videos and stuff, I thought people were just misspelling bias, or that was just a new way of saying bias. It was based. So I actually had to look up based and see that they were using it in a different way. Michael says the opposite of the new woke is awakened. Jim Bob Joe says, "Can we abolish abortion in the USA?" Well, and that's another word I'm not going to say too many times because YouTube doesn't like that. Um, can we? Yes. Should we? That's a different question. That's definitely one of those views that's going to keep you does that's going to probably have you on that catching the old vibe in a at a family gathering is your views on abortion one way or the other. It doesn't matter which side you fall on. You're gonna offend someone at a family gathering with your views on abortion. So here's mine. My view on abortion is gonna piss off everyone on both sides, right? Here's why. Guys, don't get mad at me. But again, like I said, I will piss off everyone on both sides of the abortion issue. So, and here's why is, for one, I am pro-choice, whatever that means. Well, I know what it means, but I am pro-choice. I think abortion should be legal. However, I have a conservative reason for it remaining legal, which is that it keeps down the number of losers and malcontents and people who will just bring down society because most often these unwanted children that people wanted to abort don't amount to much later on in life. I'm sorry, they don't. The numbers don't show that most of these unwanted children end up being Albert Einstein or Michael Jordan. They end up being, you know, Ted Bundy. So, um, I'm sorry. So I think if you make abortion legal, especially in places of low income areas, it will bring down the crime rate. So that's a conservative reason to be pro-choice. Also, from a classical liberal stance, I'm very I'm not into government having direct control over our bodies. However, having said that, I was happy that Roe versus Wade was taken down. I was happy for it, and here's why. the whole it was on shaky legal ground from the beginning, which is why for the last 50 years Democrats have promised to make it into law, which they didn't, because they cynically knew that as long as they had that on their platform, they could get people to vote for them on the hopes of them solidifying this constitutional uh, this the Supreme Court decision into an actual law, which they never did, and like I said, cynically probably never intended to do so. But that's besides the point. The reason why I was against it being struck down was that it was literally about a white woman in Texas, lying about being raped by a black man. That's another word I can't say more than once on YouTube per video. But she lied that a black man raped her just to get out of an unwanted pregnancy. So she was willing to let some innocent person suffer the Emmett Till thing just because her little slut ass didn't want to have a child that she wasn't prepared to carry. So F her. So that's why, although I am pro-choice, I was happy that Roe versus Wade was struck down and it went back to the states. And like I said, if it was made illegal nationwide, I wouldn't cry because, again, these women were saying, "Oh, the government's trying to control our bodies, blah blah blah." Look, bitches, there are 3 dozen methods of birth control available in the United States. 3 dozen, which do not include the A word. So you're acting as if your only choice is to never have sex, to get an abortion, or to get a cream pie. Like, so it's just cream pies or abortions, right? Nah, it's not. Like I said, you got three. And one, I actually had one friend on Facebook try to tell me, she was like, "Yeah, but it's not. They're none of them are 100% certain." I was like, "Nothing is 100% certain in real life. That's not how the real world works." Like, and I told her, I said, "You know how ridiculous that is, right?" I said, if a condom with non-oxyl 9 spermicide is over 99% effective, you think that's not good enough? If a birth control pill is like, what, 98, 97% effective, you don't think that's good enough? I was like, let's reverse that. If 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 someone told you if you buy this lottery ticket, you have 99% or 98% or 97% or even 90% chance of winning, would you not buy that lottery ticket? If you knew you had a 90%, I should, and I could go lower, but the point still stands, right? If you knew you had like a 90% chance of winning the lottery if you bought this very ticket at this moment in time, would that would those odds not be immensely in your favor? Hunger Game pun intended. But yeah. So why is it now that you think that that's uncertain when it comes to birth control? Or put it another way. Say you have terminal cancer, but there's a new there has just been a new procedure approved that is over 90% effective. If you have terminal cancer and the FDA just approved a procedure for that cancer that is over 90% effective, would you not want to bet your odds that that's going to cure you? So why would you think that that's a bad odds for birth control? Like, that doesn't make sense, and she didn't get it. And so anyway, I'm sorry I was ranting, guys, but Custody says hit like and subscribe if you want to have a lesson. But anyway, like I said, um, those are my views on abortion. which is why I will piss off people from both sides because I'm very nuanced in it. Miller says, I like your walls. I would like to claim this. This is not my house though, but yeah, the wood paneling is, this is old school. This is like very 80ish, maybe early 90s chic type thing here that she's literally had, my grandmother's had since she's moved. No, I think she did have this updated back in the early 90s. I don't think these were the original walls, but yeah, it's nice, right? Kind of old school flavor. The wood paneling. Jim Bajo says, thank you for opening up. I mean, thank you for sharing. He said, Jim, FBI, open up. I wish I had no, I don't want to shame. Like I said, I'm not trying to shame the man because I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But I was just saying if he was being genuine, that I'm not trying to shame him. I'm just saying be mindful of what he expresses openly in a public forum, like a live stream or anything online, because all the stuff is being watched, and all these social media apps, they collect data and use it, and Google does it, Facebook does it, um, pretty sure X, formerly known as Twitter, does it, and some of these others. Like when you agree to the terms to for these apps, they're not free. The cost is your personal data. Everything you do on these these big tech sites, they collect and and gather. They collect and gather and bundle your data together, and then they sell them. They sell your data to these data brokers, right? And then these data brokers go on and have these auctions where they allow people to bid on your personal data, and they use that for the purposes of either marketing thing their products and services to you. Some will use it for like medical information on you. Some will use it for more nefarious purposes. So be careful what you say online. Custody says all these trolls, no likes, no subs. What a waste of effort and resources. Yeah, I I get it. I mean, you guys are glad I'm not Kevin Samuels. He would shut down his whole shop. Like he would, like when he was doing like his super chats forums, like when he was giving his talks and stuff. Man, if people weren't giving him enough likes, he would just shut shit down and start playing music until he got enough likes. The funny thing is he would play music that people didn't like, but then people start liking it. So he have to change the music. Michael says it still helps the algorithm for him. Yeah, it does because the public watchable hours still helps. Although, like I said, I still banned a lot of people if they were just dragging down the conversation or trying to be offensive. Like, it doesn't offend me. It just, the only thing that does upset me is that they're like um, deterring people from the topic. That's the only thing that does upset me. I don't get upset about what they say because I don't care what someone online thinks, especially when I know they can't fight. If you troll, you can't fight. People who fight don't troll people. You're not gonna see George St. Pierre in a live stream trolling people. You're not gonna see Silver Anderson online trolling people. You're not gonna see Stamp Fairtax online trolling people. You're not gonna see Rod Tang. I can't pronounce his last name, but people should know who Rod Tang is if they follow Muay Thai. He's not gonna be online trolling people. Like people who can't fight troll, and they're stupid. Jim Bajo says Google keyboard tracks every word you type and send it to NSA. Custody says obviously Pegasus is old. Custody says I'm not going to self snitch, but this man is awesome. Let's give him respect. Thank you guys. Michael says most don't realize that that's the problem. Yeah, like I said, that's the Dunning Kruger effect, right? Custody says, I wish these short-term swipers knew how widely trained and knowledgeable you are. Man. Well, I mean, if they want to, they can go to my other videos and see that I'm actually trained in martial arts. Like, I actually show little snippets. See, the thing was, when I was making those videos, I wasn't content creating at the time. So this was just stuff I was just making for my own, just for my own reference later on to watch and enjoy. But now when I will do it in the future, I'll have it in mind for the content creation. But I've actually have videos of me in different places in different parts of the world, like training. But like I said, unfortunately, it was only like very short clips because at the time didn't have in mind that I should be a content creator and didn't edit that edit those videos in that way to make them more enjoyable for other people to watch outside of myself. Jimbajo says, based in reality, objective truth. I hope I didn't scare King Mississippi, by the way, because I don't see him, and I know I didn't ban him, because I had no reason to ban him. I was just saying, I was saying for his own security's sake that he should be mindful what he says, because, like I said, we don't know who comes onto these platforms. I was like, not everyone who's viewing the content are people that are visible to the live stream. And then, like I said, all of our data, both me as the content creator and you as the watcher, our data is collected by these tech companies and sold to data brokers, and then these data brokers hold these auctions where we don't know whom they're selling our personal data to. And Michael says, yeah, that's what awaken means now. Jim Bajo says, I give my life an award to save 1 million babies. Well, I mean, I guess that's noble. Um, I'm a veteran. I don't know if I would say I would give my life to save 1 million babies. I would give a life. I would give my life to save my baby. But 1 million babies, that's more of a utilitarian thing. So if you are interested in what I'm talking about, some of these references go back to a previous live stream I did 2 days ago on the topic was what was the best ethical theory for our daily living. And at the very end, I gave an inclination of where I am with my ethical views, but I wanted everyone else to share theirs. And I gave like an overall look at the 5 major camps of meta-ethical theories. And the one you are expressing right now is utilitarianism, which is a form of consequentialist ethics, which deals with like doing the right thing because it leads to good consequences. Because 30 says lose-lose situation. Jim Bob Joseph's Children of God, that is utilitarian view. No, so the utilitarian view is, and there's many different forms of utilitarianism, but in the most general, rough-hewn sketch is that the what is the ethical choice is what will maximize the most good for the most people. But there's obvious flaws in that, which is why a lot of people, especially from the philosophy camps that I come from, are anti-utilitarian, as I am too, because I don't think doing moral calculus is the best way of making ethical decisions. It can be a quick way of assessing choices. especially which is why in politics and the which is why often in government and military decisions are made on a utilitarian uh, standard, but the utilitarianism is definitely not the best way to make ethical decisions. So shaking bottles says keep us poor and slave like. Whom are you referring to, shaking bottles? Custody says don't just say you give your life in just text. I mean, we don't know his sincerity, so but there used to be this common meme on Facebook and in other places where whenever people would share like a strong political view, there would be a picture of this army recruiter pointing to the chair and said, "Oh, by all means, show us show us what you would do." Right? It's like sign up here. So I used to share that a lot on Facebook because I always thought it was funny when people shared these really strong views, but they were just um, keyboard warriors. And I'm not saying that about Jim, by the way. I don't know that man enough to say that, but it did used to be a funny rejoinder to people who would express like really strong political or hawkish views online. Custody says life is fleeting, whether you believe it or not, but what rings true or through history is honor. Legally Blind 1357 says the wall panel reminds me of my childhood home. Cause I'm literally in one of my childhood homes. One of them. This is my grandmother's house, so it has the old school paneling. Got the plaque on the wall of my grandfather right here. Which, by the way, it's July 8th. She actually told me earlier today. This is the This is her marriage anniversary to my grandfather, who's a war hero. By the way, this plaque says that he was in the infantry uh, in the in actual combat in Korean War. Um, so, and over there I have some uncles who also served. Those would be my grand uncles. So my grandmother's brothers who both served. And on the other end of the wall, you can't really see it because it's behind the TV, is my uh, uncle who served in the Navy. Although I think it kind of messed him up, but that's a different story. My father also served, as did most of his uncles on my father's side and my grandfather as well. So, come from a long line of veterans on both sides of my family. So it was like almost an it was it was almost a given that I would have served. I think it would have stood out more if I didn't. Well, no, not really, because actually, yeah, most of my cousins have never served. I'm probably one of the few that actually did. I think after my my generation just didn't feel that sense of didn't have that call to the military like I did, but I don't know whether it was just in my blood or I played with too many GI Joes as a kid, but that's what happened. And like I said, this is an old school childhood home. Like my friend came over last week, and he was saying that this family den had the feeling of like the 70s or 80s. And I told him, I said, nah, more like early 90s. I said, this really hasn't changed since the early 90s. uh, Custody says, apologies for spam and chat. Just hit like all. I'll be quiet for a while. No, you're good. You're good. Ricky Bobby says, who let you on the couch? Well, I mean, your mother normally does since I bend her over it. Anyway, Custody says, I know you via field nurse and master scan met a long time. No, we are not, Neil. H says hello, bro, from Russia. Sorry, I can't pronounce the Cyrillic uh, wording, but thank you for coming in here. So if for people who just jumped in the chat, if you didn't see the headline when you came in, the topic is do your views go against your family politics? And when I say family politics, I mean either your immediate family or your community. So Custody says, yeah, I'm the last one to serve from 4 generations of war, and honestly, I wouldn't send them to do what we survived over politics. This is another reason why my family and politics don't mix. Yeah, yeah, I don't know too many. Yeah, honestly, I don't know too many of my cousins on either my mother's side or my father's side who served. Like my one cousin, he wanted to go in. He told me his ASVAB score was too low, and at the time, I thought he was lying because I'm like, come on, how your ASVAB score is too low? But then I realized that he was a high school dropout, and I'm not sure if I think he did finish his GED because he's gotten a good job working in the MTA, the Maryland Transit Authority. Um, he's been working there for the last 20 something years, and he's making well over 6 figures. Good for him. Um, but he was a high school dropout, and unless he did at some point get his GED, which I assumed he did to get his job, he stopped at 10th grade because I'm not gonna put his name out there because I don't want to put his business out there. Shout out to him, by the way. It's his birthday. But yeah, so he failed the 10th grade, and I know he was ashamed of it because then he left where he was living with his aunt and uncle and moved back home to his mother, which we all disagree with because his mother lived in a really bad part of East Baltimore. And he was like, nah, man, you were doing good out in Charles County, out in Waldorf, for those who know Maryland like that. So that was a nice area, but I think he felt shame that he failed 10th grade, so he would have been behind all his friends. And then he ended up going to a local school in East Baltimore, I believe Lake Clifton or somewhere like that, a really shitty school, and ended up failing again. And I was like, oh my god, how did he? I was like, how do you? So I knew he felt some sort of way about that. So last thing I knew that he dropped out. I'm like, damn. So you know, so he was the only other person I knew that was interested in doing the military like I was. And like I said, now I don't think he was lying as far as not being able to have a high enough ASVAB score. So it's not the ASVAB score itself; it's a part of the ASVAB that's called the AFQT, or the Army Forces Qualification Test. This is actually an IQ test that is part of the ASVAB, which is the Army Services, Vocational Aptitude Battery. ASVAB. I first took the ASVAB back in like high school just to take it, and as soon as I did, was getting recruiters coming my way. Um, but then I had to take, but that wasn't one that I think they actually used for like purposes of actual like enlistment. You actually had to take another one at the MEPS, the Military Entrance and Processing Station, where everyone at the MEPS job is to basically weed you out, as so they can only get the best military candidates. But I had a high. I'm gonna reveal what my AFQT is, but I had a high enough score that I knew I could get any position in the military that I wanted. So, um, Custody says high school dropout, perfect recruit. You would think so, but like I said, he still had to make the ASVAB score, Custody. And like I said, to be honest, I was mad when he said he didn't get a high enough ASVAB score because I thought he was just lying, just to get out, just because he changed his mind and didn't want to tell me. But he was probably I think he was, but looking at it now, I think he was genuinely telling the truth. I think, if he couldn't make it past the 10th grade in high school, then he probably would have been, not able to get a high ASVAB score, because the Marines took at least at the time took the lowest down as the Navy, but the Marines back then in the 90s took the lowest score. But we were both, enlisting for Army. Well, actually, I was enlisting first for Air Force, and maybe that. But I think he was. I think he enlisted. He tried for Army, but Army had the highest AFQT requirement. But and I'm gonna get back to the topic, guys. But yeah, I was disappointed because back then in the Army and I think other branches of the military, you could come in through the buddy system. If you came in with someone, like, you could go through training together, because especially in the Army, they had this whole thing about having your battle buddy. So they started letting people enlist together as friends. And so that's what we were planning on doing, because originally I think my friend who joined the Navy, like 2 years before I went to the Army, he was actually trying to see if I was interested. I was like, Navy? Nah, man, I'm not trying to do that. Which was funny, because a year prior I actually was considering the Navy. When I was still in high school, my senior year, I had considered doing the Navy. And my father was mad. He's like, oh, he just wanted to do the Navy because his uncle went in, because my father's an Army man. He probably would have said the same thing if he knew I wanted to be a Sigma Phi, a Phi Beta Sigma in college, and almost did sort of the same thing. Although I didn't go his, although I didn't join my father's fraternity either and become a Kappa, Alpha Psi Noop. So whatever. Anyway, I ended up going into the Army by myself, and as far as I can remember, I'm like the only cousin who did, on either side of the family, that went into the military. Although all of our uncles and fathers and grandfathers had enlisted. Tade said Semper Fi. Marines had that too. Yeah, yeah. What's up, Ty, by the way? Custody says, like I said earlier, I would never recommend anyone join, but I encourage everyone to stay healthy. Yeah, so that's the question for me, Custody, is would I want my son to enlist? I I wouldn't mind him enlisting, but I would still want him to get his education like I did. So as long as he got his education, I'd be fine with him with him joining, either enlisting or getting a commission. And I almost did get a direct commission, by the way. That's another story for another day. Let me get some water. But yeah, Ty said they had that too. I thought so. I think at the time, Ty, all the branches were trying to do that, because it would increase recruitment numbers, right? If you got everyone to try to join with their buddy, that would double their, like, if everyone did that, or at least enough people did it, it would double their recruitment numbers. So it was actually a pretty smart. It was actually a pretty smart maneuver on the part of the military to have that whole little buddy system going on. Because, like I said, I know the Navy had it and I know the Army had it. So I'm assuming all the other branches had it as well: Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force. Ty said you had to be a DEP together, then shipped to boot camp. Okay. Yeah, I think it would have actually been fun. Now, looking back at it now, I kind of wish I did it with the Navy, just because I could have traveled more than I did. Like, I didn't start traveling till after I left the Army, except for like Europe. I went to Europe when I was in the Army, but other than that, I didn't get to travel as much as my friend did. But he also had a pretty useless job in the Navy, where he just changed the flags as an oncoming ship approached. And the Navy just weren't. I'm sorry, the Navy just doesn't seem manly, and it like it's the only branch of the military I know that people get out of shape while they're enlisted. Like, I mean, no, and even worse than that, they were showing people get out of shape during boot camp, and I was like, how in the fuck do you get out of shape during boot camp? You're supposed to be getting into shape. I was like, geez, Space Force literally has higher standards, has higher PT standards than the Navy, and they will never see any, and they will never see deployment in the field. Like they will never see deployment. Don't get me wrong. What space people aren't aware, some of the things the Space Force do is very, very important. It's above my pay grade to talk more about what they actually do, but some of the stuff they do is pretty whore. Like it's up there. Like you think of like if you think of stuff that the Army does with Cyber Command or with NSA, it's up there with that. But besides that, like I said, because the Space Force has the same standards as the Air Force, their PT standards are actually higher than the Navy's. And they will never see deployment in the field, unlike people in the Navy. That's kind of sad. But if you wanted to go into the military and have an easy going at it, probably the Navy is the way to go, because Coast Guard actually has high PT standards too. And most people think the Coast Guard is nothing, but they actually have high PT standards as well. Not the Marine standards though, Todd. We know that. No, none of us have the Marine standards, right? And I can admit that. I'm cool with that because I know that where I'm at in my fitness, both then and now, I would have qualified for Marines. The only reason I didn't do Marines is because I knew the Army had the most selection of jobs. Custody says I was Army para, then Army rifles. Okay. Don't want to drop too much. Op relics and herrics and beyond. I was there. Okay. You don't have to give too much. You don't have to give too much info. Like what we say, custodian. When people always ask, "Oh, did you really do this and that?" I'm like, check my DD 214, right? That's all y'all say is, hey, check my DD 214. Optelics, yeah, right? I'm sorry. Tyler say I joined early 2000s. I joined 98. Custodian says I signed my first 4-year contract August 2001. Tyler say I've seen some chunky hoods, to be honest. So have I. I've worked with them, especially in the reservists. On the reservist side, yeah, some of these guys like they'll just write their own. I shouldn't be saying this, but whatever. I don't care. Some of them were writing their own PT test, like passing their own PT test, which is messed up. I was like, hey, no way this fat FUCK passed this PT test. But because they were like, E6s and above, some of them just wrote their on their PT test that they passed. Whatever. I bet you that shit didn't fly when they got deployed, because we got deployed twice. But whatever. But no, Todd, I already know there's some fat Army guys. It don't offend me because I know we both know it's true. But I'm just saying, overall, I've seen the most unfit folks I've seen, by and large, has been the Navy. So he says we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So guys, I'm gonna end this soon because it's late and I'm supposed to be getting up really early so I can work out before I get to the office, which I have a long commute. But yeah, so like I said, the original topic was, do your views offend your family politics? And I said, like, I know I do. I haven't even told my family that I'm a Trump supporter, so I know I would hear endless shit. Like, my mother, she watches MSNBC all day, right? My grandmother, she doesn't watch cable TV, but she's a diehard Obama person. So Biden for most black Biden for most old black people is an extension of Obama. And so I wouldn't tell her either. However, what I will do, if because I know I have a lot of Trump supporters and my followers, I've already told them if they want to drop a Cash App, I will buy me a "Make America Great Again" hat, and I will wear it on both video and to the voting booth. And I don't care if people get mad if I wear it to the voting booth because, like I said, at the end of the day, I can fight. At the end of the day, I can fight. So it doesn't matter if they get mad at me for wearing a MAGA hat to the because I live in a black community in the Baltimore suburbs. So you already know that the electoral vote where I live is going to go to Biden. We already know this. Doesn't mean I'm still not going to vote for Trump. And that's why I like some of those places that don't where the electoral vote doesn't just go automatically to whoever wins the popular vote is broken down, like in Maine and one other place, I think Nebraska or Nevada, whichever. But those are the only two places where it's not the popular vote catches the electoral vote. It'll be broken down like X amount of votes will get this X amount of electoral votes instead of getting all the electoral votes. Like it's like in most places other than two states, the popular votes gets all the electoral votes, unless that electoral voter decides to go his own way, which legally they can do in most states. Although in a few other states there are penalties if an electoral college voter goes against the popular vote. Uh, Custody says which politicians actually care about the sacrifice over money. I don't know. I mean, political power is a corrupting influence on people, or I should say, political influence is a corruptive power. So, and then you gotta think who are the types of personality who would run for office in the first place. Like even back as far as high school, we know there were certain people who wanted to capture who wanted to run for like school president or in college run for school president and stuff like that. Like it attracts a certain type. Like I think you have to have a healthy dose of narcissism to think that you're fit to tell other people what to do. I said a healthy dose. Obviously, when it can go too far, but I mean, a lot of a lot. To be fair, a lot of different types of lifestyles attract a certain personality. We know that people who go into military and law enforcement are of a certain personality type, right? More of the authoritarian type. And like I said, people who go into politics are more the narcissistic type. People who thrive in the corporate world are more of the psychopath type. So, or let's say this: people who go into politics or and thrive in the corporate world tend to fall under the dark triad of personality types. So, Ismail says, "Would you say I'm fit?" Yes, I would say I'm fit. More fit than most people my age, or nowadays. Here's the sad thing: I'm fit than most people half my age. I work out every day, 10K every day as a minimum, and then usually I do a second workout. But I don't stop with my run. I do shadow boxing. I do calisthenics. I hit the gym at least 2 or 3 times a week to do strength training. I'm trying to get back into a MMA gym or somewhere. Once I go back to the Philippines, I also will be doing John Fan Jeet Kune Do to get my certification because that's the thing on my wish list. And I'm a self defense coach, so I would say I'm fit. Daniel and Colton say hello. What's up? Custody says, yeah, I have gym and basketball soon too. Yeah, okay, so let's not keep each other up too late. I'm probably gonna end this. I'm gonna try to get this wrapped up within 5 minutes or so. Ishmael said, "Who you voting for?" So you weren't you definitely weren't paying attention to what I was saying earlier, unless this is just old. Isaiah Appleseed says, "Poor guy." I don't know if you're referring to me or someone else. I am poor though. I am poor. So if you think I am a poor guy, go ahead and drop something in the Cash App or the Venmo, or you can buy me a coffee because I am a poor guy. Sure am. Hit the Cash App, please. Custody says, please don't wear a MAGA hat. It will destroy the stream. No, so the thing is, yeah, but it would be mostly for shock value. But like I said, Custody, like half of the people who watch me actually are Trump supporters. Like, especially almost all the veterans that I speak to on here are Trump supporters. So he wasn't lying in the debate when he was telling Biden. He's like, most of the military loves me. He was correct. Like if you did a survey of most service members, most of them do support him. But like I said, as far as half of my followers are Trump supporters, and I'm not just talking about white people. I'm talking about black people too. A lot of black men since 2020 have gravitated to Biden. I mean, sorry, to Trump because they felt that they've been hoodwinked and led astray by both the DNC and Biden. Like people are just tired of the same rhetoric the DNC has been using for the last 50 years to scare, like they use scaremongering tactics to get black people to vote for Democrats. Like I've literally had one of my friends in a group chat telling me, yeah, if we've voting for Trump will be like one step closer to a path back to slavery. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Part Pardonnez ma français. But yeah, yeah, it's like no, dude. I was like, the path towards slavery was through Biden. He's the one who co-wrote the 1994 crime bill, and like I said, part of the amendment that abolished slavery kept slavery legal if you're imprisoned. I hope a lot of people know that. This is what I was talking to King Mississippi earlier. But yes, slavery is still legal if when you are in prison. So, and a lot of people said that needs to be taken out of the Constitution as well. Um, but yeah, he wrote the 1994 crime bill that sent thousands of black men to prison for minor drug crimes. He, along with the Clintons, were the ones calling young black men super predators. Super predators. Um, he was the guy in the 70s that worked against busing black kids to integrated schools. He he was the one who worked with Strom Thurmond. He was the one who eulogized the KKK leader Robert Byrd. Um, and there's been other stuff. He's also the one who made these false campaign promises. So a lot of people harped on the fact that he didn't pass the student loan thing, that he was going to cut off a lot of the student loan debt for a lot of people still suffering in loan debt. That's controversial for a lot of people. But here's the thing: he also, as part of that, promised specifically to black people that he would get rid of all student loan debt for people who attended HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. Didn't even touch that when he went to office. He promised a anti-black hate crime bill. Didn't do that, but passed an anti-Asian hate crime bill and just said, forget black people, even though that was literally one of his campaign promises. Um, so he reneged on things he promised us in his campaign. The DNC is still using their scaremongering tactics. Then they're trying to shame black men and saying, "Oh, these guys who were trying to go for Trump or this or that," or you know, it, I had enough of the DNC. So, like I said, I was glad I've been an independent since at least 12 years ago. I would never go back to the DNC. And then locally here in Maryland, violence has taken an uptick in Baltimore. It's almost up to the, even though violence nationwide has come down to almost like 1960s level, within certain cities is still very high. Places like Baltimore and Philly and Detroit and Chicago and St. Louis, um, within these inner cities, crime has almost gone up to the 90s level, and in all and the in all these cities, there are black Democratic leaders who aren't doing anything. I also did a whole video on this little shady, ratchet female mayor over in Illinois this little who runs this little shanty town. And she's under federal investigation now. I did a whole video about her if you guys are interested in that. Um, but yeah, I mean, black men aren't seeing any of their interests being represented by the DNC, and they're not sellouts. They're being rational voters. Like they're optimizing their their um their electoral choices by not just being glued to the DNC. The DNC has taken the voting block of black people for granted. Like I remember even back when Al Gore was running, he came to my campus, so I saw him at a rally, and I mean he seemed cool or whatever, but I didn't vote for him, and because I was still Republican at the time, by the way, and I was a liberal Republican, and before people crossed their eyes, in the 90s up until like 2000, there was a such thing as liberal Republicans. Basically, people who were socially liberal but socially liberal but fiscally conservative. Um, in any case, I remember this one black attorney came to my campus and he said he couldn't stand Al Gore the way he just shucked and jived around black people, like he just knew, took it as a given that they were going to vote for him. Well, look at that idiot Hillary when she started trying to use Ebonics in her talk when she was around black people, when she went to black churches, and then even was talking about she kept hot sauce in her purse. Like, bitch, what? Then, of course, Biden's most notorious gaffe is when he went on Hot 97. Well, actually, I don't know if that radio program is Hot 97 with Charlemagne the God, but when he went on his radio program, said, "You ain't black if you don't vote for me." Like, word, really? So I'm not black if I don't vote for a person who worked with a white supremacist and and help legislate the worst crime bill ever. Yeah, okay. I'm not black then. But my dumb ass still voted for him back in 2020. I keep kicking myself for that. Sorry for the rant. But because of all that, I would not have any shame in wearing a Make America Great hat. Um, but that's only if someone wanted to contribute to me. And like, if someone wants me to wear it, like they can drop me a Cash App and then put, because in the Cash App you can put what the purposes of the money is for. They put this is for you to purchase a MAGA hat. I'm a man of my word, and like if someone drops me a Cash App and they put in the byline in my Cash App, this is for you for your Make America Great Again hat, I will wear it. I will wear it on video. And like I said, I might wear it to the polling booth, the voting booth. Um, I know that was a long a long slog. Sorry about that. Isaiah Appleseed says blacks vote for Trump now. Yeah, they do. So Custody said orange or zombie. Now, and I don't want to give a false dichotomy either, Custody. Like, there are other choices but besides Biden and Trump. However, we know that those choices aren't viable. But I would never tell people that, because my father would say stupid shit like that. And this is, well, I'm not my father. He would tell people that third party votes are a waste of a vote. No, they're not. If that's, if, if you don't think that the two major options represent your political views, then by all means, don't vote for them. Vote for the person who represents your views. Obviously, if people, I mean, because we have this two party system, which by the way is not something built into the Constitution. It just so happened that way over time because it's become an expedient form of electoral politics. But because of this two party system, it it hurts any third party candidate from having a serious contender for president. But don't let that dissuade you because there have been third party candidates before that have won elections or have come close to. Ross Perot in 1992 came very close to winning. His problem was that he dropped out of the race. So when he came back in 96 and ran, people didn't take him seriously again. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the the Republican Party was once a third party. Yes, the Republican Party was once a third party. They don't, like, sometimes they try to draw themselves back to the original Federalists, but the Federalists was a completely different party than the Republicans at the time. The Republicans were actually like a third party, a third party back, if you know your American history. And that goes to the guy early who was asking me, do I, as a black man, am I ignorant of American history? Apparently, I'm not. So, Isaiah says orange is the new black. By the way, I've never watched a Netflix show. I just didn't want to watch a show about a bunch of white suburban women in prison. Not unless they were getting naked and anyway. But Maya says hi. What's up, Maya? Jeep says sit outside and get some fresh air. It's midnight. Why would I do that? And I've gotten fresh air. Like, I was literally outside running, and then I was outside doing yard work for 2 hours. Did you get your your vitamin D today through the sun? And don't take that sexually. I mean literally vitamin D because the sun rays hit your body, and it actually converts your cholesterol in your body into vitamin D. So, yeah. Custodian says, have a great day, bro. Stay healthy and a seeker of knowledge. Thank you. Thank you for contributing. I haven't seen you in a while. Aaron says, I just joined. I'm interested in who you voted for. Aaron said, did you see the live where Biden is walking down the path with fans and he skips over a black lady who clearly asked Biden for a picture? I literally just saw that a few hours ago, Aaron. It was on the Philip Scott podcast. I think it was the no, it wasn't the Philip Scott's podcast. I'm sorry. It was it's this black conservative Officer Tatum. Yeah, Officer Tatum was just showing that earlier on his show. I'm gonna go watch that again, but yeah, you can see she looked miffed. Like that's what happened when you go with Jim Crow Joe. That's what I call him. Everyone has a name for him. People who like him on the left call him Uncle Joe. My father once said that. He said, "So you on both Uncle Joe or Trump?" And I was like, Dad, there are other options besides it. There are third party options. Oh, that's just a waste of vote. Okay, that's your feelings on that. That doesn't represent my interests. Like I said, Ross Perot was a third party candidate. He came close to winning in 1992, except he dropped out. The Republican Party, like I said, for people who don't remember, the Republican Party was much a third party. It it was not, you know, where it was when they first started. The Republican Party started off as a third party. Look it up. Um, Also, RFK Jr. Strong has the strong ability to be a dark horse candidate, which is why they wouldn't allow him on the debate. This is why the DNC wouldn't support him when he originally wanted to run as a Democrat. So he ended up changing to become an independent. This is why, even though Cornel West never just tried to run as a Democrat, the Democrats tried to do all they could to stifle his campaign because they knew he would take black votes away from Biden, because a lot of people like Dr. Cornel West. He first tried as for the Reform Party, but because the Reform Party was dealing with some political corruption and other problems, he left and went to the Green Party. Then he left the Green Party because the Green Party decided they wanted to run that nut job Dr. Jill Stein again as their candidate. So now he's an independent, and then it just happened to hit the news that Cornel West is having issues with child support and all this sort of stuff. I wonder who leaked that information. I bet $10,000 it was someone from the DNC, because they felt threatened by his campaign. Because last year, the early last year, he had a lot of backing. He had a lot of backing, and a lot of black people like Cornel West. He's an affable guy. He's intelligent. He's the closest thing we had to what Plato called a philosopher king, because he literally is a philosopher. His Cornel West's background is he has a PhD in philosophy under very uh, the very famous philosophy professor Richard Rorty. That was his faculty advisor. So he has the intellectual chops. He's affable. He would be well liked by people in the very on the far left progressive base, as well as by black people. So he would capture a large portion of the people that Biden need to win the election. So I'm pretty sure they ran that dirty information about him last year to hurt his campaign, which is another reason I said FUCK the Democrats. Sorry, ranting again. Isaiah says, LOL, FNC, that is not the first time he's done that SHIT. Rosie Lynn says the big divide in politics has got to stop. We need to get to a place where we understand each other. We can sit and listen despite differences or opinions. We haven't been ready, so who knows when. I don't think that's very realistic, honestly, Rosie. I get the sentiment, and I wish that were the case, but it's just not very realistic. Besides that, like the political tensions we see in America are not new. This is why I say American history is so important. If you guys knew some of the dumb shit that the candidates were and their followers did back in the 1800s, man, they did some crazy stuff. Like, there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to American politics, other than that it's bigger now because we have constant news that feeds us information about what's going on. Other than that, a lot of this stuff is not new. Another example I give, you had guys who were like best friends became bitter enemies from running campaigns against each other. When John Adams ran for re-election, and I know it's sad that I actually have to explain this because so many people don't know politics, but yes, John Adams was the second president of the United States. And if you guys are actually interested in him, HBO did a great series on him back about 20 years ago on John Adams. It made the honestly the a lot of the TV show made me like him more, to be honest, because he was one of these classical liberals from the European Enlightenment and Age of Reason. But he and Thomas Jefferson were like best friends. Or if they weren't best friends, they were close friends. By the end of by the end of their election, they were bitter enemies until their literal death. Like they they were saying all sorts of crazy stuff about each other in the newspapers of the time, like just calling each other all sorts of foul stuff that nowadays people would be like, that's so uncivil. And like now when they say uh, presidential politics isn't civil anymore, it's is historically it's always been uncivil. It just had a short time within the 20th century where it became more civil, but it has been pretty uncivil for most of the course of American history. But yeah, these guys were close, if not best friends, became bitter enemies, were slinging all sorts of mud against each other in the news, and didn't talk to each other for like decades until like they were on their deathbeds, and they were actually sad that it took the death of one of them for them to realize that they lost an important friendship. Like when Thomas Jefferson, he died on July the 4th. And I think one of the last words he was saying was, "It's a July the 4th." So, and that's one of my ancestors, by the way. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't to think that tensions will be eased. It's not going to happen. The only way that's going to happen is we change the way electoral politics runs, which is we need to get rid of this two-party system. We even need to go to like a multi-party system like they do in continental Europe. I don't think we should do a parliamentary system like the British do, but maybe a multi-party system like they do in most countries in continental Europe would help. Um, Maybe other things like ranked choice voting. The most the most extreme, but I think the most useful way of changing the way electoral politics run is to have is to change to what can be called an epistocracy, a government of the knowing, where similar to like a regular democracy where everyone has a vote, but people who can demonstrate that they're informed voters will have a weighted vote in elections. So a custody says independent, just flip a coin. Isaiah says my arms are bigger. Romano Reed says I'm done voting for Black Democrats. I feel Romano. That's exactly how I feel, man. I don't want to vote for Black Democrats anymore. They're either incompetent or aloof to the point that they just don't represent the interests of the Black community. Like I said, that's why I don't like Obama. He did nothing in his 8 years for Black people, and when that was even brought up to him while he was still in office, he was like, "Well, I'm not the I'm not the Black American president. I'm the American president." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Then stop going to Black churches and going to these Black rallies for support amongst the Black electorate if you're not the Black American president." All right. But no, every time he needed support, he go run into Georgia to one of those big uh, AME Zion churches, even singing one some hymnal in one and which went viral when he did that. I'm like, man, I was like, y'all don't see political opportunism when you see it. Like, I don't like that man, and just, most Black Democrats I don't like anymore. One of the few that I still like, because I met him a long time ago, was like Kwesi Mafume. But other than people like that, and a few other like black congressional members. I don't like black Democratic leaders. Like I said, I've already told my friend. I was like, man, I'm so pissed off at like what's going on in Maryland politics and just with black Democrats in general, just running shitty city governments. That I said, not only am I voting for Trump, that at least in Maryland, like all the way down the all the way down the ballot, I'm voting Republican. And I'm not even a Republican, nor am I even a conservative. But I was saying I'm so disgusted with black Democratic leaders right now that I'm just voting Republican all the way down the ticket. So I completely feel you, Romano. So he says algorithm. Did we have the same recruiter? Now my recruiter was this upbeat guy. He was cool. It was funny because someone else, when I went to my permanent, when he was taking me to my permanent duty station, which was at Fort Detrick in Maryland. Uh, someone else at the unit, they was like, what? They was like, why is your recruiter all chipper? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what is he supposed to be unhappy? Let the man. I was like, if the man, let the man be happy. Shit, he likes his job. Shit, he was an upbeat. Like that's the type of recruiter you want. You want an upbeat recruiter. You don't want this type of recruiter to be like, all right, just sign here. We'll get you to the MEPS. If you don't fuck up, then we'll get you'll go on the training. Like you don't want someone dour like that. Of course, where I was at Fort Jackson, well, it's no longer Fort Jackson. I forgot what they renamed it, but let's be honest, no one in the Army cares about the renamings of these places. So I'm gonna still say Fort Pickett. I'm gonna still say Fort Jackson. I'm gonna still say Fort Lee. I'm gonna still say Fort Belvoir. I'm gonna still say all these things. I don't care. But anyway, at Fort Jackson, I remember when we were going on our PT runs, the drill sergeant was like, "Look over there, Pride. You see right there that building?" He said, "That's where they teach all your recruiters to lie to you." That shit is funny. But nah, I mean, I don't know if we had the same recruiter, but like I said, he was an upbeat guy. This was in Baltimore, the suburbs. So he was, I think, out of the Catonsville recruitment office. So unless your recruiter came out of Catonsville, Maryland, I don't think we had the same guy. Um, so this had okay. This guy's handle, guys. This guy's YouTube handle is Joe Biden's drool bib. So he says he owns a company and worked for the right to make the choice. Um, Evelyn obviously says, has the world become a bunch of avatar actors? Everybody wants to be a character now. I don't know who you're referring to. Joe Biden's drool business pro-Trump doesn't mean pro-black. Yeah, I mean, Custody says I have 6 minutes to prep for the gym. Stay awesome, brother. All right, my man. Take care. Joe Biden says yes, there are other choices. Think before you speak. Uh, are you referring to me or someone else? Because I definitely did say there are many other choices out there. Usually during the election, they will have a debate just for all the third party candidates. So I hope they do. Because actually, guys, there are like three other people running for Democratic president right now. There's at least three other people. One guy is a senator, I think, or governor. Then there's that little quacky, that little the little flaky lady. I can't remember her name, but she seems actually nice. But I wouldn't vote for her. She just seems like a flake. Um, then there's another person. So there's like at least three other people running for Democratic president, but they're not getting backing by the DNC. However, the DNC might be taking a second look at them because there are insiders within the DNC that are looking at possibly replacing Biden. But he went on Twitter and a bunch of other platforms 2 days ago and says, I'm the sitting president and I'm running for re-election. I'm not stepping down. I'm like, yeah, okay. But, you know, you ruin your party's chances because of your own narcissism, but whatever. Um, so, like I said, there's at least three other people running on a Democratic Party, even though they're not getting support by the DNC. Then there are a bunch of other third party candidates. Like, of course, everyone knows JFK. I mean, RFK Jr. is running. Dr. Cornel West is running. They're both running as independents. Dr. Jill Stein for the Green Party is running. I don't know who's running for the Reform Party. They are having some legal issues, so I'm not even sure the Reform Party has a candidate. And if LaRouche is still alive, I'm guessing he's still running, but he runs a political cult campaign. Like, his campaign is just a, a cult to get money from college students every year. If you haven't heard of LaRouche, look it up. Um, and then there's the Libertarian Party. I don't know who their candidate is, but they're running someone. Um, there's the Conservative Party, which is not to be confused with the Republicans, but there's something called the American Conservative Party. I guess they're running someone. So there's a bunch of third party candidates out there for people who are just dissatisfied with both sides and want to pick someone, but instead of just sitting on the couch, there are third party candidates. I would never, like my father say, that a third party candidate is a wasted vote, because, like I said, back in '92, Ross Perot as a third party candidate almost won, and also the Republican Party started out as a third party. So there you go. Joshua says, ironic that the Republicans have appointed a king. No, they didn't. That's just their front runner. But did not the Democrats do the same thing with Biden, despite him being an obviously weak candidate? You can make the same. I mean, I don't mind you saying it, but let's be fair and say that Democrats are definitely doing the same thing with Biden. They're running a candidate that everyone knows is an inferior candidate. They could have ran someone like Gavin Newsom, whom I don't like, but he would have been a stronger candidate. They could have picked Andrew Yang. I've mentioned this in my earlier stream. Like, there were a bunch of people they could have picked back in 2023 who could have actually gave Trump a run for his money. If they really wanted to run for the money, they would have got Bernie. Back in 2016, polls had predicted that Bernie could have beat Trump. Now, there was the people who did say, well, actually, there was a statistical analysis that said that Hillary would beat Trump as well. And they were right and wrong. They were right that she would beat him, but she only beat him on the electoral vote. But we know the vote is decided by the electoral vote. So, sorry, Nate. You guys know what I'm talking about. All right, Custody, go tip your man. What's up, Vaughn? Enormous is RFK Jr., so I guess that's whom you're voting for. I don't have any problem with that. Like I said, I don't have any problem with whomever anyone's voting for, as long as you're voting for the person that you chose. And like I said, if it goes against your family politics, who cares? That's the original topic of today. Does your views go against your family politics? And when I said family, I meant either your actual like blood family or your community at large family. And like I said, I being an independent classical liberal, to be distinguished from American liberal, classical liberal Trump supporter, I definitely go against my family politics. Pretty much everyone who is voting in my immediate family, again, qualifiers who are actually voting, are probably voting for Biden. My father, who used to be a black Republican, I don't know whether he still is or not, because he voted for Obama and even told other Republicans they should as well. And then he voted for Biden, and then was trying to shame me for questioning people voting for Biden. And my dumbass still voted for Biden in 2020 anyway. And I just felt shitty about that. And the only reason I did it was because after Bernie lost the primaries, he backed Biden. So since every time, even though they even every time they ripped the votes from Bernie back in 2016, 2020, he was still a good soldier and backed the front runner. So I did the same thing. So I swallowed a lot of grit and voted for Hillary in 2016 because I was one of those brainwashed people thinking that Trump was so evil. Even though the 4 years Trump was in office was like some of my happiest years, um, in recent times anyway. Um, then the last 4 years, the Biden's been, and I'm not saying they were the cause of it, of course, but just if I, with through association, like if I'm just looking at it loosely through association, the 4 years Trump was in office were good for my business, which is lead generation, because we deal with things like interest rates and other things like that, which were low back then. I can't believe, like, I'm still astonished going back into this field um, a week ago, knowing that people have like 6% interest rates now and they think that's good. I'm like, shit, that's not good. I was like, I used to be able to get people down to a 2.75 fixed interest rate. But anyway, it's getting late, and the later it gets, the more it's gonna incur more trolls, because trolls stay up late at night. So, and I can't do that anymore. I gotta go, guys. I didn't even realize how incredibly late it was, so I'm gonna let you guys go. All right. Have a good one. Again, if you wanted to express what you thought about, if you have strong views on politics that go against your family politics, leave a comment or a question or whatever in the comments after this video uploads. There was an earlier stream as well you can check out if you want. It's kind of short. It's only about an hour long. Um, and again, for the Trump supporters out there, um, being that I'm black and I live in a predominantly black and democratic community, it would stand out if I wore a MAGA hat. So if you do want me to actually do that, and your boy will only do that because he can fight, but um, if you want me to actually wear a Make America Great Again hat, drop a Cash App and put in the byline, this is for a MAGA cap, and I will actually buy one. I'm a man of my word. I won't squander money given to me for a specific purpose. Just like when people buy me a coffee, like every time people bought me a coffee, I actually do, get some coffee, have some iced coffee, and I drink it during the live stream to show people that I actually have, use this money towards those ends. All right, but when I end this, like I said, the links are in the description for my channel, and the description also tells you more about what my channel is about for people who just jumped in and don't have a clue why I'm talking about one thing or the other in these live streams. But the title of my channel, Just A Contrarian, should give you a hint. But guys, if you want me to, if you want me to answer any certain questions as well, like I said, drop a Cash App. I appreciate it. These vertical live streams are something I do for free. All right. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna go. It's late, and lateness encourages trolling. Take care.